can't believe it. I can't believe it. I actually really, really, really can't believe it. You know why? Because if someone were to tell that little girl, that Neha that was, in this really interesting life that was not anything like this. Nothing like this existed in her world, but it did exist in her imagination. And so when I see my imagination come to reality and I see the things that I have, as they say, manifested, but this is actual science, this is actual construction of how to make life the way you want to have it. This is the way that I did it. And I was like, man, this is now my responsibility, because I feel like if I could create it, anyone, especially someone like me, coming from the background I had come from, even just coming from India, it's not a place where a woman can dream about anything higher than getting married. In the construct of me coming from a household with a lot of domestic violence and not having a lot of hope, and a construct of a life that was quite limited in the resources I had. But those are the constructs we all experience. At some point in our journey, we all have constructs of limitations, whether it's your family, whether it's your resources, whether it's your environment, whether it's your neighborhood, whether it's your trauma, generational. The thing that I'm leading to is I've done something really powerful to help me, and I don't know how I really, really did it, but I have some clue, and a lot of it is still a mystery to me. So I'm in awe sitting here. I'm just in awe, that I get to experience this reality that was once in my mind. And I wanted to put together a podcast. I mean, it's always been a dream of mine, and it's not something I thought as impossible. I knew that there was some way I was going to spread my voice, because I feel like our words and our construct of life is formed by words, and my words were my superpower. So I want to give you my words today, and I want to deliver you a message. I think to start off this podcast, so this is my first solo podcast, and I wanted to start off the conversation with just a really big reflective piece that has helped me in my life journey understand, the start of this whole process. I want to share with you how my starting began. How was that spiritual journey for me? And maybe you can see in your own construct something of a similar, unfolding. Because when you do go on the spiritual path, there is a way in which the journey, the transactions, the highs, the lows, the feelings, it all unfolds in a certain way, and it's actually quite similar. So I want to start from the start, and I'll take you on my journey, and I'll get you to express it in your own way. So I want us to close down our eyes, and if you can take a moment, and if you can visualize your life as it is, and you visualize all the things that you thought were going to happen and all the things that you wanted to happen, and see the entirety of all of that, and get to the point you're at now, and look at your life and see how many of those things that you wanted, how many of them turned out the way you wanted it to turn out. Or maybe it's completely out of your imagination how you have turned out. Maybe it's unfathomable how you have your life right now. Now I want us to ask ourselves, in the lens of, let's say, God, in the lens of the universe, if everything was constructed through God's will, if this whole world was constructed through God's lens, and you can pretend as you are the being that is, that term we use, God, but you being that power, and you just visualize yourself as that powerful force. If you had to construct this earth, how would you construct this world? Would it be perfect? Would it be peaceful? Would it be in harmony? Would it feel like everything is equal? Everyone has enough? And now let that go. And then become from a perspective of a human being. You just look at the world from a perspective of you as the human being. Now visualize the world you would like to have. I bet you still want safety. I bet you still want peace. I bet you still want abundance and equal give and take. So now if I ask you, come back to yourself. Do you think our lives are constructed through God's will? Or do you think it's constructed by our actions, our will? Because I think people place a lot of significance on this term of it's destiny, it's God's will. If something really tragic happened, a lot of people do use these terminologies. And I often traveled through that course of understanding them myself. And when I had to understand my own situation was in 2015, when my mum passed away from cancer. And I had to be at this crossroad of looking at life and going, is this God's will, or is this something that we did? Is it something that we did to have that happen? Or is this just God's will? Because, she was 52 and she was so beautiful. And she was so much alive and she was so much full of life. And I couldn't understand at that point of time why that happened to me. And was it God's will, or was it my will, or my mom's will, or my family's will? And I think that's how you start this journey. There's something that ultimately tragically happens in your life, and you ask yourself at this crossroad, is it God's will? Do I leave it in God's hand? Or is it something I did? And now that I did question is you got to be careful there, because I did is not to blame yourself. I did has to be about accountability. What did I do? What could I have done? These are healthy questions to ask at crossroads, trust me. But don't use that connotation of, oh, I'm really shit, or I don't deserve this, or don't start spiraling downwards, because that's not healthy. I did spiral downwards. I did blame myself. I did say that because I moved from New Zealand to Australia to make a better life for our family, and I was working day and night and hustling. I was hustling. I was working in the mines. I was working in the mines as an environmental scientist for the last 10 years. And of the first 4 years working my ass off, thinking that I'm going to make money for my family, to make, a better means of life, to live a little bit healthier than we once did, I got distracted. I got really, really, really distracted. And that's what's going to happen on your journey. So you're going to start taking actions towards the betterment of your life, but in the course of those actions, you're going to take some mishaps, these missteps. And I think these missteps happens because we haven't gotten a construct of who we are. We're just starting to awaken to the identity of who you are in this spiritual journey. And it actually starts with figuring out who you're not first. So you will have these labels that you will think are really great, and I'm so good, and I am a scientist, and I have a prestigious job, and I have this and I have that, and all of these things that you think will make you happy, and that's how the journey starts. So that's what happened to me. Now, when I got so high in my career and making that salary and basically living however I wanted, I forgot about my mom. And I didn't forget, not only my mom, I forgot the reason why I was doing everything. So there's a lot of that ego that plays on this journey. So be careful is what I want to say. But back to my story about this crossroads. So I'm coming home from a night out in Melbourne. I lived in the countryside and I came here to party and live it up and, work hard, play hard as you do. And I'm coming home and I receive a call from my mom. And I remember this day, I remember the road I was on. I remember the whole scene. I remember everything in that car. I remember the car, like the acoustics of that conversation. She was on Bluetooth. And she's like, Neha, I found a lump in my breast and it's not normal. It looks like a wound. And I have been too ashamed to tell anybody, which is what we all do, especially when it comes to, I guess, our bodies and the shame. But I'll speak about that at another time. But this conversation was hard to hear, and I still find it hard to process. And I think that's the crossroad. So that started my crossroad journey, really. That conversation ended with, I went to go check. They sent me to get an immediate MRI scan, and well, I've just returned home, and basically I have to wait for the outcome, but it's not looking good. They said that it's probably stage 4 cancer. And I immediately, crossroads. So after that, I feel like my journey started. And yours will probably start the same way. But that's the journey. And the suffering happens because it's not really God's will, because God wouldn't want this for anybody. And it's not our actions, because we wouldn't, well, it's not our will either. It's the unconscious actions we take towards our lives that result in the awakening and the shake-up and the distortion and the collapse. That's how it happens. It's not God's will. It's your doing unconsciously, because God has given you everything. But my service to myself in that journey was to better myself and not put myself down just because I was, So anyway, just to come back and say, don't put yourself down. No matter how many steps you see were your fault, they weren't your fault. They were just there to awaken you. So now that you are somewhat awakened, we hope that's what happens when, you get into a dark place or when things are just chaotic. There's actually a moment of time. It's like when you walk into a dark room and it's been dark for so long. And it's just that moment of time where somebody just switches the light, and that's what it is. So you will be in the darkness, but do not be afraid. There will be a moment of light. There always is. And that's the whole point of suffering, is to awaken you, to soften you, to show you kindness, to show you love, to show you all these possibilities. And I can't even believe that I'm saying this, but it's actually through my trauma that I'm the happiest person I am today. I don't know how that makes sense, but in my opinion, I feel like my suffering was my awakening to see how beautiful life is, and that my mom didn't die without cause. I mean, I built Artful Yoga for her. I built it for her memory. I made it so that we could have a place of healing and community and safe conversations, big conversations, unafraid conversations. Unafraid conversations. And I love that about our community. I think every time we meet in communion here, I've always seen really brave conversations. And I want to have that on this podcast. I don't want to be this perfect image. I'm not that businesswoman you might see, or that, yoga teacher that's perfect. No, I'm me, and I'm just a representation of you and I. And I want to sit here today just to motivate someone, give someone hope from my journey, because I am sure my story is not in vain. It's not in vain. I mean, this existence, this gallery itself is my miracle story. And your pain can be your miracle story. So I want to kind of step into a really important facet that I think a lot of us struggle with, and certainly for me, helping myself in relationships, which have been the biggest, anything I hear from someone is always to do with a relationship. That was the biggest catalyst for them to feel a type of way, to feel stagnant, to feel hurt. There's so much residue in people these days about relationships. Whenever you meet someone, they always talk about their past relationships. And they're so important. But at the end of the day, if you listen to the dialogue people are having, the dialogue is, I'm hurt and I can't get past that. I've built up walls because I tried to trust someone, and I'm not doing that again. I have this loving person, but I can't love them because I don't know how to open up to love anymore. And the whole reason for us existing in this earth is to love. Literally, that is the reason for entire existence of humanity. And it's not just to love in just one sense, it's to be in love with life. And to be in love with life, it's like you have to universally be in love. Love is a universal thing. You can't selectively love, because that's not love. Love is universal. So if I can help, if I can share, if I can just motivate you in one area that helped me, and this is a lesson that I learned through the philosophy of yoga, actually. So I'm just gonna put it to the floor and get you guys to experience a little shift, you could call it, a little shift that happened to me learning this. So once again, if you can close down your eyes and just sit. And in this moment, if you can just allow yourself to observe the relationships in your life. Observe the relationships in your life as they are, the big ones, the feeling ones, the ones that are something to you. And as you scan those relationships, where do you find there are challenges or just these knots that have been tied? Any particular themes, any particular reasons, any particular difficulties you've been experiencing in those relationships? Can you identify a common theme? And then allow yourself to come back. Hatred does not cease hatred at any time. Hatred is only seized by love. And that is unalterable. So if you think about that statement, to live this life, we must understand that there are some universal laws. And if you think about healing, one significant thing I learned about healing is that it's not about trying to put yourself in that uncomfortable position to heal. It's about putting yourself in a new perspective to look at that situation or be in that situation differently. So what I'm trying to say is, if you observe your relationships as they are right now, and you see there's common themes in your life, and you see that there are situations that you have cycling and looping and going through negative holds, if you look at that and you really understand what it comes down to is not that you can change your relationship by getting the other person to be the way you want. In relationships, what we come with is our own sanskars. So this is a Sanskrit word, and it basically translates to your characteristics, your personality, your subconscious programming, your conditioning. These are all layers of who you are. They are called sanskar. And when you come into a relationship with people on this journey, we all carry so many different sanskars, so many different layers. Not just me and my body, I'm also the product of my mother's mind, my mother's traumas, my mother's physical body, her mother's, my mother's mothers. There's a whole trajectory of people that have passed through for me to be in this position I am. So I carry all of their bearings as well, all of their DNA, all of their memories. So in relationships these days, what I find is we're going into relationships trying to have this perfect person, just the way I want them, just the way I like them to treat me, just the way I want them to show up, just the way I want. And how many just the ways are you gonna have satisfied? I mean, if you look at any relationship in its truest form, and we are the most traumatized from our relationships, and our relationships always start with our parents. It's always our parents. It's always those first bonds in our lives that create the themes of the next. The themes of your childhood relationships, if you look at them closely, have then cycled and looped into your adult life. So for example, my theme has literally been the biggest common theme in all my adult life, and that is abandonment. So when we had a lot of domestic violence in my home, and basically when it all came to an end, it resulted in my parents divorcing. And it was a really abrupt way of my family disconnecting really fast, and the ripple effect caused a lot of grief in me as a child, figuring out where my safety net that was my father, where is he in my life, and figuring all of those. I felt so abandoned, and abandonment is scary. Abandonment is absolutely scary. It made me feel as a kid like I had to protect everyone. I had to be the man. I had to be, and that's rippled into my relationships. I want to protect. I want to be the man. I want to take care of everything. And I get disheartened when that person is not nurturing me or taking care of me because I don't allow them. And God forbid I actually am in a committed relationship, because it's been about 10 years, real talk, that I have not been able to be in a committed relationship because I fear abandonment. And it's still something I'm working through, and we all work through these things in relationships. So to help resolve this theme, and you can apply it to yourself, is that you can't heal an emotion with the same emotion. So in its entirety, my pain and my suffering and all of those abandonment emotions, I was actually already feeling them when I was going into relationships before my relationship even happened. And as soon as I meet people that I actually like, I'm already casting in my brain all the ways they're gonna leave. And guess what that does? It sends a signal. It's literally you writing the code of your life and telling the universe how you want the relationship to unfold. And the universe is going to do just that. But it started from your programming. It started from your conditioning as a child. It started from that abandonment. And maybe it wasn't even just you, it could have been your trajectory of generational trauma, as I said, sanskars, the layers. But what helped me heal in my relationships was identifying firstly that this was a problem. Could we think it's not us that are the problem, it's always them, it's always the world. And no, it's not the world. It's you projecting your thoughts upon the world. Your thoughts create your reality, and that applies to everything. And if you haven't attained that relationship goal, it's literally you fostering that blueprint, writing it all down, sending a cast, a magic spell. This is literally your thoughts create your actions create your reality. You're already putting in the universe that abandonment issue, and therefore you will be abandoned. So if you look at your theme and you look at that dialogue between you and that relationship, and you really ask yourself, what can what can be done to resolve this issue between me and this relationship? So if you bring to your mind someone in your life who is an important relationship that is not working, and it's really hurting, what needs to happen for that relationship to be healed? And does it have to come from just one person? Can it come from, does it have to come from two people? Does it have to come from both parties resolving? Is that possible? Because I believe that no one is going to come to the table and resolve your relationship but you. And it's actually not even about them. It's not about the other person. It's not about my dad not abandoning me. It's about me still being safe enough to love my dad even if he stays or goes. So it's not the issue that is my dad, because he has his own sanskars and he's got his own issues and he's going to keep repeating what he's doing. But I need to see that. So that's my consciousness. That's my awareness. It's not personal. And so when I come into this relationship, I need not fear abandonment. I cannot bring that to my, to my thought. I have to literally start with the intention that me and my dad are going to have a prosperous, beautiful, blossoming, gorgeous relationship. That is the energy that I need to bring, because the fear that you bring to your relationships brings that relationship into that fear. So, in the case of these, emotional healing steps that we need to take in relationships, you cannot go past the notion that a negative emotion is not going to resolve it. So you can't hold on to the frustration or the resentment or the pain or the frustration that they left, or any dialogue, them. You can't first and foremost hold that negative emotion, because as I said, the emotion that you need to heal cannot be healed through the same emotion. So if you're in a painful relationship with anybody, you cannot heal that pain through pain. So allow yourself literally in this moment to bring that person or bring that beautiful relationship that you wish to have with that person, and bring some words, some feelings, some emotional states that you want to feel with this person, and I want you to feel it be possible. And just feel how liberating in itself that is. You don't even need that person to relieve you or do something for you. You can literally heal yourself before that person is even in your physical realm. You can heal yourself afar just by feeling that the intention you have for this relationship is so pure and so loving, and you will be. So everything is energy. Everything is energy, whether it's numbers, whether it's colors, whether it's the planets, whether it's, everything that you see is energy. But the most powerful energy that we have is the energy of our minds. Our mind's energy is the most powerful and potent source of all reality constructed through this mechanism. That is why on the, again, back to yoga philosophy, it talks about the evolution of species. And it says, even in the context of our evolution, that we've evolved through so many different lives. But the human life, the human being, is the most privileged, the most highest, the most potent of all the species. Potent because we can make so much happen, unlike any other species on this planet. Human being is such a privilege and a potency on this planet that we must learn to control our potency. Where do you use it? because if we spoil it everywhere, it's leakage, right? It's destroying the planet. But if we concisely use our energy and actually fix our relationships and actually, God forbid, heal ourselves, because I don't think we think we can. I've seen so many people just think and accept that this is the world, but no, it's not. It actually doesn't have to be that way. And that's why I opened Artful Yoga, because I know that healing can be right here, right now. I know that healing happened in my life. I know that I feel so healed. I know that sometimes I'm still in constructs of pain, but I have tools which help me significantly. And healing is not a destination. You're healing all the time, every day. You have to make a choice. And it's that power of energy. It's the power of the mind. So I want to just conclude with saying that we go through negative cycles all the time, and they're going to happen again and again, but you have to see the theme. What's the theme? And if in any theme you identify, whatever that might be for you, look at it closely and see that in that theme, whatever that's required to resolve it, ultimately comes down to love. It ultimately comes down to you being pure love. And it's nice. You don't need to, you don't need to look for any other alchemist, chemical, drug, high, person, job, anything. That literal translation of all that suffering, all of those negative cycles, is to remind you to be love. And that's where we started, and that's where we need to end. So the suffering can end today, it can end right now, it can just end absolute, if only and only you transition to love. And that starts with your intentions. So all religions, with all due respect, and I've only studied but a few, what I can say is all religious practices that I've studied and seen, all the spiritual practices that we do observe and we've learned through, they all lead us to purity. They all lead us to this thing called self-realization. And self-realization ultimately comes down to you realizing that you are pure love. That is actually it. So I'm just giving you like all of this thousands of years of ancient wisdom. But in all seriousness, that is what is the ultimate goal, to realize who you are, and you are pure love, and that is what it's all about. And to start this journey, it's going to start with the highs, the lows, the dark night of the soul, and it's going to be all of these things. But in the end, if I can sit here and I can say that I'm still laughing, I'm still playing, I'm still inspired, I'm still moving in such a good trajectory forward instead of backwards, you can do it too. These are just the steps that I use to move forward. So allow yourself to bring any of these modalities that we teach at Artful Yoga, whether it's the yoga, the dance, the poetry, the music, the other orchestrations of healing that you see around you. Try them. They are powerful tools. And just like any tool, you must use it concisely, but the most powerful tool is your mind. So use your mind to create your reality, because that's the only way to do it. My first episode. I want to say thank you so much for being part of this journey. If there's anything that has moved you, if there's anything that I can do better to bring more of this, what are the kind of themes or questions you might have about spirituality, about yourself, about conflict in life, what can we help you with, how you can make a contribution, how you can bring yourself into this union, and allow yourself to communicate that to us in any which shape or form you can, because there's so many ways that I want to know how we can help. And yeah, what is that? Like, subscribe, all that stuff. But it's cute, it's nice, I love it. I'm humbled, I'm joyful, I thank you.